Hi, Dave Hayes here from On the Kennebec, and I'm talking to Larry Davis, who is the president of Row House Inc., Hallowell's Historical Society, and big news about the Dummer House, right? And so the Dummer House is that little house that's on the corner of Second Street and Central, right cat a corner from the Hubbard, and it's right behind the parking lot. And so, Larry, what's been going on with the Dummer House?
Well, it's really big news, a major, what I would call a paradigm shift, if you will. Um, but let me give you a little history about the Dummer House before I break the news, so you'll have some kind of perspective of the building. The Dummer House belonged to a gentleman by the name of Judge Nathaniel Dummer, and he came to Hallowell with his wife and five children in 1789, and he served as the postmaster in Hallowell from 1794 to 1802. And he was also very active in civic life and very active as a judge of, and this is a court of common pleas in Kennebec County. So people would go to him and he would adjudicate their cases. In fact, in 1794, there was a case involving a paternity case, and it involved the famous Martha Ballard, the midwife of this area, who's extremely well known. There's been a book written about her and so forth. In fact, there's been movies and so forth. Um, in those days, the midwife, especially in a situation where there was a bastard child, sorry to use that kind of language, but it was a paternity case. They don't know who the father is. They want to find out because they want the father to pay the bills. So they relied on the midwife to find out the name of the father. And generally, in a childbirth situation, that information was forthcoming. And so she was called to the court in this particular case to identify who the father was. Um, and you should also know that Judge Nathaniel Dummer built the Dummer House in 1792. It's a fairly large home for the time, and believe it or not, they had a house raising. It's a post and beam structure, so typically they would have a house raising, and the local people would come and help. And Ephraim Ballard, that's the husband of Martha Ballard, was at that raising in 1792. It was in June of 1792. Um, Judge Ballard was also fairly well known for his war protests. In the War of 1812, he would give fiery speeches in opposition to the War of 1812. So uh, that protest history is kept up with Hollow, as you probably know. Um, so let me move ahead. So in 1792, the house is built, and so people say, well, it was right there on Dummer Lane. Well, no, it wasn't. It was actually on the main street of Hollowell. It's where Berry and Berry is now. So then in 1818, uh, the house is moved. It's moved up behind Berry and Berry in 1819. Excuse me, 1818. Um, and sits there for many, many years until 2018, 100 years later. I'm sorry, 200 years later, excuse me. It is moved from Dummer Lane to the corner of 2nd and Central Street. And that is accomplished by a gentleman by the name of Aaron Sturgis, a really well known um, person who is heavily involved in restorations. And so the house was moved there. Um, and there was a plan to get it to Linda Bean, who owned it at the time. She bought it back in 1969. Her plan was to move it up there and restore it, and Aaron Sturgis was going to do it. Unfortunately, Mr. Sturgis had a fire in 2020, and then at the same time, we all remember COVID, which went from 2019 to 2023, and lo and behold, Aaron Sturgis is heavily involved in all kinds of restoration. So Linda decided to find someone who could do it more quickly. And with our help, with Row House's help, we helped her find a local person who was going to do the restoration. Um, and unfortunately, Linda passed away right in the middle of that. So the house is in terrible condition, as you can see. Um, so with the passing of Linda Bean, in her will, she has left the house to row house, and that is a major shift. And row house is we didn't want to we didn't want to accept the house until we had firm plans that restoration was actually going to take place. We didn't want to end up owning a property that we couldn't get restored. We have worked very hard in finding that individual. Um, we put out a request for proposal, an RFP, if you will, to six local people who do restorations, and we had three responses. And from that, we have selected an individual, a company. It's called Hitchcock and Company, and they have at this point verbally agreed to do it. They've submitted their RFP. We've accepted it. We had a separate committee of row house that studied all the proposals and determined which restorer we would choose. We brought that back to our board. They approved it, and they also approved to accept Linda Bean's gift to us because we are now ready to do that restoration. We've hired an attorney, and trust me, we're we're spending a lot of money on attorneys at this point, on the attorney to get this thing properly done. So at this point, um, the big news is we now have someone to restore it. We're ready to go forward. We're just working through the paperwork of getting the deed from the estate of Linda Bean, and then to working with the new restorer and setting up the plan. The plan. In fact, we actually they did submit a very detailed, specific restoration plan for us to agree to. So that is the big news. There is going to be some effort on that property. It's been in very tough shape since 1969, since the day it was bought by Linda. She worked hard at trying to restore it herself when she was quite a young woman, um, but over time it has not happened. In fact, if you drive by it, you will say, "My goodness, what a terrible looking building!" And it does. It looks awful, but that's not gonna be that way forever. David, I sent you some pictures. I don't know if you could share those with on the podcast to show what it currently looks like and what our proposed view of the completed restoration of the Dummer House.
Well, we do have, I do have some of those files. So let's see here. First, I can add in here. I think you can see that's what the current Dummer House looks like, right? Can you see that?
Yes.
And so we've had up the restoration. We've got the pretty picture the architecture is done, and we can also let's see here. We have the here's the current back of the place, which is perhaps the most unattractive part, and that is looking out over the parking lot behind Berry and Berry and these other places. And if we go, we can see the plan in the back of the architect here. And hello.
I'm right here.
No, I'm trying to get it to come up. Okay, there it is. And this is the back elevation. Going to have a deck back there, and some plantings. My, I guess a question I have is, what is the house going to be used for? Right, you're renovating it, but renovating it to what purpose?
You're playing into my hands. Love it. That was my next my next point to make because we get that's the question everybody asks us. And currently, currently it only has one stairway up to the second floor. There used to be two. You see, there's two doors. There were two stairways, and that's what's going to be replaced. It's going to be a duplex, if you will. So there's going to be two apartments to be rented when it's done. I don't have any pictures of the inside, but trust me, it is. It's got beautiful fireplaces everywhere. It's just an exceptional. Um, it looks terrible now, but when it's done, it will be just exceptional.
What was it originally built as a duplex?
No, thank you for that. No, when it was built on Main Street, where Berry and Berry was, right on Water Street, it was a single family home. But well, let me give you a little background. You understand what happened here. Uh, in November 19th of 1803, Judge Dummer had some bad luck, and this is from Martha Ballard's diary, and it says Dummer suffers a stroke of bad luck. Mr. Ballard, excuse me, Dummer suffers a stroke of bad luck. Mr. Ballard, that's her husband Ephraim, has been to ye settlement. Was informed that Judge Dummer has chartered and loaded a vessel for the West Indies, and it is frozen in the river. He's got to make good on that ship, and he's got to make good on that cargo. And his financial effort goes downhill. Uh, I don't get into don't get into the weeds here, but when they moved the house in 1818 up on Dummer Lane, which is right behind Berry and Berry, um, they converted it into a duplex. It becomes a rental property, and for many years it was a renters lived there. So in our view, we need housing in Hallowell desperately. So we're going to put it's going to be put it's going to be it's going to be a 2 unit rental property.
And this is very consistent with row. I mean, row house is called row house because you have the row house that is just not next door. The Doc Hubbard's office is next door to Dummer House, but just on the
Yeah,
other side. So it'll be just two more places there that'll go along with the apartments that are already in the row house.
yes.
And so that sounds about right. So that's cool.
So,
And
here's
yeah,
if I can just give you a little more detail. The row house was going to be destroyed. Back in 1969, they were going to tear it down. It was a derelict building. And Linda Bean and a number of fairly prominent citizens in Hollowell were appalled at the loss of this beautiful house, this row house, this beautiful historic building. And two of those people included were my in-laws, um, uh, Don Huff and Lynn Huff, and they and a bunch of other people in town literally went down there and swamped that place out, cleaned it up, painted it, and so forth, and it got it to a point where they could sell it to someone to restore it, which in fact happened. And they took that money. Remember, they put their own money in to buy that place. They all chipped in together. Then they moved on. They went down to where Lux is, the beauty salon. Nathan Sennett owns that building on Main Street, just those little ways down from Slate's, right on the corner there across from the cotton mill. That building was the second oldest house in town, and that's where they went and they saved that one, and they went on to save multiple homes, and we've kept that up. We've saved them. Row House today has saved a number of buildings on Main Street that had gotten into terrible disrepair, and we called on this. We have an ordinance. Row House got an ordinance put in to the city rules and regulations that if you own a historic home in the historic district and you're letting it go to rack and ruin, the city can come in and make needed repairs to save that building, and they'll put the charges for that construction or that repairs goes on your tax bill. Now there are two buildings in town that just happened to, and we were instrumental in determining that there was a terrible problem in those buildings, and we called on the city to uh, take that action, which they did.
so with Dummer House, we're at the point where um you're you've ta- you it, row house has ownership of it, right?
Right.
And you have a you're in still finalizing the request, or the agreement with Hitchcock and Company to do it, and so you're obviously now going to fundraise, right, to pay for this.
Well, we're just to be clear. I want to make sure we're clear. We do need to fundraise because we have already have a lot of illegal bills. Um, we are going to turn that property over to the Hitchcock.
Mhm.
They're going to own it. That,
Okay,
we're
so
not
it's
in the
going to be
business
like
of
the
owning
fire
property.
department, where that company is going to own it and then sell it, presumably as residences, or run it as apartments.
Right. But don't. There's not a lot of money changing hands here. Don't don't. Unfortunately, so we are raising funds because we're going to be deep in the legal bills and so forth. So we're asking people to help us. We're actually selling Christmas cards this year as a
Hmm.
fundraiser. We're asking people when we send out our mailing to become a member of Row House. We're asking people to if they can share can share. Spare a few dollars to add that to their bill. I mean, if you want to join Rojas, it's not a lot of money. It's like $25 a year for an individual. It's $40 for a family. A student's $5. Um, we raise some money that way, but we're not rolling around in dough here. We've got some substantial legal bills we've got to pay, and we're asking people to help us do that.
Great. So that'll be going on, and is probably going on. We'll provide more information, but it looks like we're going to have eyesore no more on the Dummer
I like
House.
that. I could. That's a great. David, you're pretty good.
I
And I
frequently
saw no
use that
more.
with my house when I'm always when I'm working on it.
I'm
But
gonna weave, I'm
and it's
gonna
in
weave
a
that
great
into
location.
my.
It's right there, right by the Hubbard, and right behind many places I like to eat and drink. so,
Well,
uh,
it's
so that's great. Well, thank you for all your work on this, Larry, and through Row House, and thank you for talking about it.
well. Thank you for allowing us to kind of spread the word, and we certainly encourage anyone who hears this and wants to join Row House. They can go on our website, um, and just punch in Row House. It'll come up. It's rowhouseinc. Dot net, and you can join Row House. You can buy the. We have a whole bunch of stuff for sale to raise money. Um, Christmas cards, note cards, a beautiful print of Hallowell from 1860. Um, but we're really hoping people will join and really get behind this effort to take this house and make it into one of the gems in the city. So that's our plan.
All right. Well, we will be providing, and I'll be through my website and through Water Street Hollowell. Definitely will be. I have my site, waterstreethollowell.org. We'll definitely have a page up and information to let people know where they can join the row house and get that swag, that get the row house swag. So great talking to you. Thank you, and everyone will be here. We'll be getting more information to you.